All right, that means that we're live. So everyone that has already joined, we'll get started in a couple minutes. So, Erin, are you joining us from your house in Charlotte today?
I am actually joining you from Maine. I'm at the Cliff House in Maine. So, I get bored easily. What can I say? I like to be on the road.
It's like conference travel isn't enough.
Oh, well, this is so I'm here for chairman's, but it's definitely a beautiful location. It's much better than a random Hyatt Regency in the middle of the country with no windows.
Be careful what you say because you're coming to Ohio MBA next week.
I said the middle of the country.
Did you have to travel via Boston, Erin?
I actually came in through Portland and I spent the
Oh,
nights, I spent all day Saturday kind of exploring. Portland's a little foodie town. I had a really good time, so it was fun. And then took the 45-minute drive south here on Sunday. And Sunday weather wasn't super great, but ever since it's just been glorious. They're gonna have to take me away with my cold dead hands.
I used to visit Portland for a branch that we had there. They were the largest lender in Maine. And there's this little place on the water that's called Becky's. It's in a boat, it's a diner. So if you can have breakfast there, if it's still there, it's absolutely amazing. It's the
Well, I have to
cutest
fly
little
out
thing.
tomorrow through there, so I might have to check that out.
Yep, for sure. Well, we would love to like tell you where in the world Carmen San Diego or Aaron D is, but I think that we better jump to it. So, welcome everyone to the SIP, a space where conversation fuels connection, collaboration drives innovation, and industry leaders come together to tackle challenges, just like catching up over coffee or an adult beverage. The SIP is all about meaningful discussion that moves us forward. And at TMC, we're committed to fostering forward thinking environment where our members thrive, grow, and make a lasting impact. Today, we're here to share insights, real world experiences, and a conversation that I think is going to challenge how you are thinking about AI in operations. Your most meaningful collaboration to TMC is when our members and partners come together to solve problems for the industry. So, a big thank you to everyone for joining us today. Today's show is proudly sponsored by Oculus. When we talk about AI and mortgage, Oculus is not a company that pivoted to AI when it became trendy. They have been building it since before most of the industry was ready to have the conversation or even knew what AI was. And today, you're going to hear exactly what that kind of long game thinking produces. And I'm genuinely excited about this one today. Joining me today are Nadia Aziz, the General Manager of Mortgage at Oculus. Nadia, welcome to the SIP.
thank you, Jody. It's great to be here. Looking forward to the conversation with you and Erin.
Awesome. And if you didn't hear on the pre-show, Nadia and I both are on Spectrum, and there's some Spectrum issue today. So we're hoping we both are able to hang in there. Otherwise, good luck, Aaron. And we also have an operator's perspective in the room today, Aaron D, or sitting outside in a beautiful location in Maine. Aaron D is the Chief Operating Officer at Interlink Mortgage, past president of TMBA, TMC lender member board member, co-leader of the TMC AI Council, member of the TMC Advocacy Committee. Oh, hell, just look her up on LinkedIn. But Aaron, we're glad to have you here.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. And if your guys' internet goes down, don't worry. I've got loads of BS I can talk for days.
I say the amount of AI information that you have consumed and exchanged in emails over the last month and putting the AI council together should definitely suffice for the 25-minute
Let's
conversation.
go.
Before we get into the substance of what Oculus is building and how operations leaders are putting it to work, I want to take a moment with both of you because your paths in the industry are not typical, and I think they matter in the conversation that we're having. I also think it's important to recognize trailblazers in the industry, and we're fortunate to be able to get the two powerhouses on the same episode together today. So, Nadia, let's start with you. You're running a mortgage vertical at one of the most technically sophisticated companies in the space. How did you get here, and what has shaped how you think about technology and operate technology and operations?
Very, very interesting question, Jody. And so I think, I came to mortgage not through technology. I came to technology through mortgage. So I actually began my mortgage journey leading mortgage business, and have had the opportunity throughout my career to spend about half my time in mortgage lending and the other half of the time in mortgage technology. And I think those experiences combined have led me to kind of where I am today to really think about how do you use technology and leverage technology to enable lenders to be more efficient, be more productive, have higher degrees of accuracy, and deliver a better borrower experience. I think I realized early on in my journey that the challenges that lenders face is not about the people, it is about the processes, right? We work in a very complex business, and you have a very high degree of regulations that add a lot of constraints on top of everything else. And so, really, it's about the processes and how do you reduce some of the complexity that exists in the processes. And so, I kept coming back to the same question of how do we help talented people spend more of their time making the decisions and less of their time on just gathering data and pushing information from one place to another. And I think that's where sort of Ocrolus came in, and that's what attracted me to Ocrolus. We are an AI-driven workflow and analytics platform, and we're really sort of taking data from documents and then transforming that into intelligence that you can then use for decision making. And so really freeing up people to focus on the things where you require judgment and you require human relationships and you require, the nuanced approach, and let automation take care of the things that are sort of more manual. So that's kind of the journey that I took to come here. And I think that someone like me who has spent time on the operations side as well is able to bring that perspective to the things that we do here.
I love that. And I love that you have that mortgage background because so many times newer technicians in the mortgage industry is like, oh, that's simple. I can do that. And then they don't realize the compliance around mortgage and it can get really ugly really fast. So,
For
and
sure.
Aaron, your path is equally worth unpacking. COO of a lender and past president of TMBA and all of your other titles. Tell us a bit about how you built your career and what has made you someone who leans into technology and AI rather than leaning away from it.
Yeah, so I say that I built my career by finding a need and filling it. I came into the business as an underwriter for Option One, for those of you guys who remember that company. That was a wonderful experience. I had to learn how to underwrite from scratch without the benefit of any sort of AUS or income calculator tool or any of that. It was fun times. And then obviously I lived through the great financial crisis and kind of saw what that did to communities, what that did to our industry. And so I really wanted to make sure that I fully understood the industry backwards and forwards. And so from there, I moved into capital markets. I moved into technology from there, compliance. And really what I did is wherever I was, I raised my hand when I found a need and something that needed to be done, and I offered to do it, right? I wasn't waiting to be tapped on the shoulder. I wasn't, waiting for an engraved invitation. I was like, "Hey, boss, like I think we need to do this. Let me take it on." And a lot of times I didn't exactly know what I was doing. I had to study late nights and figure it out. But I think that kind of gave me a really good bird's eye view perspective of the industry to where I was able to see how if you do something ineffectively or inefficiently in one part, it can have downstream impacts on the other part. And that's how I saw technology really as the way to solve the problems and to make our experience from start to finish so much better, to reduce the friction, to make it easier for the people who were working to get get through what they were doing. Because at the end of the day, everything that we do is about the consumer experience. And what happens in operations is just as impactful to the consumer's experience as to how sales meets them as well. And so I just have always wanted to find a way to clean that manufacturing process, make those improvements, make those iterative changes. And through that, I just have really loved finding technology and finding new and interesting ways to do things.
Uh, I think we've had similar paths and I didn't even know it. Although I started almost in the mailroom at Nova Star Mortgage. So, but I did end up in underwriting. And I also think, it is, I have said this for many years that because like a mortgage is extremely disruptive to the lives of our clients.
Yes.
And the faster that we can get in and we can get out, then it's a smaller amount of time that their life is disrupted. And I
Yes.
believe that technology and AI are pushing us forward to compress that amount of time and to reduce the friction so that we aren't as disruptive
Yes.
to an individual's life because it's trying. It's like I'm going through a home build with my mother now, and I said I would never build another home, and it is
Yeah.
just a very confusing process. But Nadia, I have to share something with our audience. So we were preparing for this, and Julian, marketing, and then Vic, they were texting me, sharing a picture. So they have a picture from a team meeting that they had, and it says, "Power your decision with artificial intelligence with 99% accuracy." This was in 2016. In 2016, Oculus already had, it was a banner. It wasn't like someone chalked it up like it was some brainy idea. They had a banner made so that it was in front of the team all the time. So a decade ago, most of the mortgage industry had not, we were like trying to figure out how to get data off of documents in 2000. If we were even thinking about that, we were
Yeah.
probably just thinking about how we could actually get our employees to work 40 hours or 60 hours a week to get the data off of the documents into the system. But most mortgage industries weren't even saying the word yet. Walk us through that journey. Where did Oculus start and how did the technology evolve from there to where it is today?
Yeah, that picture is amazing. Of course, everyone looks so much younger as well. But I think it's funny when people hear AI today, they immediately think of generative AI and large language models. But I think the problem that Ocrolus was solving years ago wasn't around generating content, right? The challenge was understanding documents and the data that you had in those documents, right? Lenders received massive amounts of borrower documents, and highly trained professionals were spending countless hours manually reviewing them, classifying them, keying in data into a system from the document. And so Ocrolus started by tackling that foundational problem, right? How do you accurately understand what's inside a document? How do you classify that document? How do you validate the information that's in the document? And how do you create confidence around the results that you are delivering? So it started with a very simple question, which is how do you help lenders understand documents at scale? And I think while AI is incredibly powerful, it's only as good as the data that lies beneath it, right? That foundation of data and the accuracy of the data is incredibly important. And I think one of the reasons we are able to move quickly today is because we have spent decades building that foundation, right? It began with OCR, traditional OCR, and doc classification, but then evolved to using AI for data extraction over time. As I said, AI-driven workflows and analytics, including income analysis, fraud detection, surfacing conditions, other document intelligence related capabilities, and each layer has built on top of the other. And I think that is really important. And I think ultimately, again, helping mortgage professionals spend less time on the manual tasks that can be done through automation and instead making decisions and using their judgment appropriately. So Ocrolus wasn't a reaction to a trend. that we were having, in the industry. It was a long-term belief that financial services would increasingly rely on intelligent automation, and we've been building towards that, for the last decade plus.
Definitely a lesson in conviction and perseverance. You were not chasing a cycle, you were building infrastructure of one ahead of the other. So, Aaron, from an operations standpoint, does that mutually matter to you when you're evaluating technology partners?
Yeah, absolutely. We want to make sure that the company that we work with has been around, can be around, but also I want to make sure that they have a strategic vision. And that's what I really love about, the story that Nadia just shared is there's a strategic vision there. You're not just pumping something out because it's the hottest thing and then you're going to sell your company and move on to the next, right? They've made a commitment to the space. And that's obviously, super, super important to me. And Jody, I think you really like hit on a really important point is you get a lot of people that are not used to mortgage, don't understand mortgage, get in the space. I can't tell you how many vendors I've met with that didn't understand the basics of our regulations and had built products that completely violated at least 32 different statutes at any given time. And so like that history in mortgage that Nadia has and that Ocrolus benefits from to me is absolutely huge because we are a very complicated space. We are a nuanced space. Loan files are snowflakes, right? They're no two are the same. And so having a company that understands that and gets that is super, super important.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have to teach them to spell mortgage, that it has two G's, we got a problem.
Yeah,
Or if they're looking for a quick win and exit, we also have a problem. Let's dig
correct.
a little bit deeper on the operational substance here. Nadia, the phrase I keep hearing from Oculus is AI enabled, AI assisted workflows. Define for us what that is. What does it actually mean in context for mortgage operations? And why does the framing matter?
Yeah. I think again a great question. I think people imagine two extremes, right? Either humans do everything or technology does everything. And I think the reality is actually somewhere in between. I think when we talk about AI-enabled workflows, I think we're really talking about technology that helps people work more efficiently, right? More consistently, and keeps the sort of humans responsible for the decision making and has the machines do all of the sort of repeatable tasks that are best suited for that type of capability, right? So for example, AI can review a document, it can identify discrepancies maybe across documents, it can even surface conditions and calculate income. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't replace judgment, right? The judgment piece is still there. The goal is not to remove underwriters and processors from the process, right? The goal is to remove the repetitive work and allow them to focus on what they do best. I think that is what the enablement or assisted workflow is that we talk about. So it's less time digging through documents and finding information and more time evaluating that information, I think is kind of how we think about it. So we believe that AI should be a force multiplier as against something that is trying to substitute mortgage professionals. That is not kind of the way that we approach it. And so that's how when you sort of talked about enablement or assisted, that's how we think about it. It is really enabling the operators to be able to be 10x in terms of their quality, productivity, and frankly, satisfaction as well. I think, a lot of operators that I'm sure we've all worked with, at some point get frustrated with just this sort of mundane task that, they have to do. And again, let technology do it and allow them to focus on the things that they do best.
Yeah. And Aaron, you're living this on a daily basis. And for you, what does AI embedded workflow look like for Interlink? And give us kind of that ground floor perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. For us, we really just want to really kind of do what Nadia said. How can I eliminate any of these manual tasks? And so we really are trying to be methodical and and very, very well thought out about it. And so, we may not be the fastest to market with a given technology, but we do it in a way that is thoughtful to make sure that we're actually adding value, right? So, for example, on an income calculator software, right, we're not just looking at like, hey, can you get us reps and warrants, or does this calculator slick? We're looking at how often is our team having to go back and manually recalculate that income, because otherwise, what's the point? You're right. So things like that. And so, obviously in operations, we want to be very mindful of what we're adding to the process to make sure it's not creating extra steps, creating more efficiencies. And so we just are being extremely mindful and oh my God, I can't even say that word right now. We're going very thoughtfully about it, because we want to make sure that I don't have pushback, right? I mean, I think operators are running scared, that you have underwriters, processors, closers that are afraid. What is this going to do? There's headlines every day about how AI related layoffs are happening. And so we want to make sure that they are feeling good about what we're doing, that we're testing it through, and also that we're like we have their buy-in, that we're not going to pick a software that is picked at the top levels and pushed down on them.
Yep.
We're actually making sure we're working with partners that will actually let us get in the system, will test us to run it, because I'm not going to pick a software that my underwriters, that my processors, that they hate. And they feel
Yeah.
like they're being forced to use. I want to make sure they love it and they're excited about it.
Yeah. And that goes a long way with change management. You answered my next question about how to do things differently related to change management. I think it's so important to not only bring along your operations teams and making those decisions, but bring along your sales teams and making those
Yes.
decisions, because our sales people at lenders get really sideways if their operations teams get upset about anything. So, and they will be the first ones to say, I'm not using this because this is how it impacts my underwriter, my processor, even though they don't have their own underwriter.
Mhm.
But it still is, one underwriter gets upset and it completely can blow up any technology that you've put in place to try to streamline processes. And if it won't be used, or you're going to lose people because of it, it's very difficult to manage that back and forth. So I love your
Yeah.
approach. I want to, Aaron, I want to pull you into a bigger industry conversation. So you co-lead the AI Tech Council alongside Amy Azarandia, and that work puts you at the intersection where the operator reality meets industry standards and industry requirements and industry guidelines and compliance. What are you working on, and why does it matter right now?
Yeah, I'm so excited about this because obviously there's just so many conversations happening around AI in our space, and I absolutely love the TMC membership. I love the community bank, the community IMB. I love the small mid-size, and I want to make sure that we're not left out of that conversation, and that TMC members are a part, that they contribute, and that any sort of framework governance that comes down from the industry is done in a way that includes the guys who aren't the Rockets and the Coopers and the big guys, right? Like we need to make things palatable. And so kind of the number one thing is just collaborating with other industry partners, with Mismo. I have conversations with Brian all the time, having more and more of those. What does, they're developing frame. And so how can we make sure that we're giving feedback into that, making sure that we have resources from on AI governance, on policies and procedures, templates. How do you vet out partners? Like we want to give resources and develop resources for the TMC members. And then finally, also like AI is not just, I say boring, but governance and policies and procedures, like it's cool, it's fun, and it's development. And so we also want to make sure that we are focused on bringing the really great vendor partners. We have so many great partners at TMC that offer AI, and make sure that we're really highlighting what our really great vendor partners have. And so I'm super excited about this, from the industry collaboration all the way through to the cool shit part of it. So it's I think I'm really excited, and we're getting the committee up and running, and so I think you're going to see some really good things coming from us here in the near future.
Yeah, we had the opportunity last week to see an AI technology that is able to evaluate compliance to Fannie and Freddie requirements or any other regulation requirements for AI. So look out when AI starts patrolling AI. Interested to see
What?
how that comes together and how we can leverage it in building our framework. Nadia, I want to push you on something. There's a version of this conversation that stays very aspirational, and there's a version that gets real about the limits. What is AI? And you've mentioned this a couple times, but what is AI still not good at in mortgage, and where should lenders be cautious?
Yeah, look, I appreciate the question, Jody, because I think responsible adoption starts with understanding the limitations, right? I think AI is incredible, but it's not magic, right? It's not something that is going to be, kind of this thing that solves everything. And I think it's important for everyone to recognize that and understand that, right? I think AI is best when you have quality data that you're providing and a somewhat defined problem to solve. Where it's not very good is the nuances that I mentioned, right? It is those sort of edge cases. It is sort of borrower situations that are incredibly complex that require more of the human judgment. Sometimes there is just business context that may be required that again AI is not going to be able to identify. So technology is very good at recognizing patterns, but less good at understanding intent, for example. So I think that's why I think human judgment is essential. And when I speak with lenders, what I recommend is that focus on areas where AI can sort of consistently reduce manual work, can improve accuracy, can increase operator efficiency, and allows them then to operate at that higher level. Like those are the places where I think AI really can make a difference and should make a difference, and frankly, free up then operators to be able to focus on the things that AI cannot solve for them.
Yeah. No, I really like that. And I think that, a big push needs to be on the industry. Like we talk so much about AI and automation in our workflow and the manufacturing process of a loan. And we forget all of the other aspects. I think people are using it. I think that they're not talking about it. But let's talk about, the how much time I get back in the day because I can prompt AI agent to tell me about my upcoming meeting and what conversations that I need to have, that can help me write the talk tracks for the SIP to make sure that they are interesting. I'm sure I could probably come up with it on my own. It just takes me less time to do it now. But it gives us that opportunity so that we can have those conversations, so we can start meetings with, how are you? And what's going on in your world, so it's not just diving in what was it we were supposed to talk about. And I think that there's so much opportunity around human resources, around accounting, and the pieces that we need to be able to run business that we often forget about. But that's a wrap. So this has been a very substantive AI conversation. I think it is a teaser for what is to come next week at Ohio MBA. Erin, I'm excited to see you there. I actually said, please ask Erin to take this session from me related to AI because she's much more the expert than I am. So
Can't
thank you
wait.
for doing that. And then, our conference is going to be chock full of AI. We heard from our lender members, we want to talk about AI framework. We want to talk about those edge cases in which we can use AI to do some of the less purposeful, impactful. It's like an algorithm can't help a borrower crying at the table because you weren't able to deliver closing docs. But anyway, a huge thank you to Oculus for sponsoring today's episode, and Nadia and Erin for bringing both the technical depth and the operational honesty that we definitely need. And you're both exactly the kind of leaders that the industry needs right now. So thank you both for your leadership. And to our audience, Thank you for joining today's conversation. This conversation with your peers are having in TMC is connected to being in the place where it happens and trying to help you grow your business. We'll be back next week on June the 16th at 2 p.m. Eastern, both live for the TMC audience and on LinkedIn. I will not be on the show next week, so Faith will take it for me so that I can be fully attentive at Ohio MBA. And if you're not yet a member and want to be part of the conversation like this one, reach out directly. I'd love to connect. So cheers, and I'll see y'all next time on the SIP. Nadia and Aaron, thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.